You ever notice how everyone these days is busy? Oh, I'm so busy. Can't talk, can't think, can't breathe. I'm busy. Like being busy is some kind of personality trait. I remember when busy meant you had something important to do. Now it just means you've been scrolling through your phone for 6 hours pretending to work on a PowerPoint about team synergy. People wear busy like a medal. I've got meetings all day. Well, congratulations, Einstein. You've mastered the ancient art of talking to people about things you'll never actually do. And you ever notice that all this busyness doesn't make anyone happy? We've got smartwatches telling us to breathe, apps reminding us to drink water, because apparently we've become too busy to remember being alive. Back in the day when people were bored, they'd think. Now, when people are bored, they panic. Oh no, 5 seconds of silence, quick. Let me open Instagram and check what my neighbor's salad looks like. And here's the real cultural issue. We've confused activity with productivity. Everyone's in motion, but nobody's going anywhere. It's like we're hamsters on Wi-Fi, running faster and faster, but still buffering. So I say slow down, sit in a chair, stare at the wall, maybe even talk to a human. Remember those? Real people, no filters, no hashtags, just faces. Because if we don't, one day we'll wake up and realize we were so busy trying to live our best lives, we forgot to actually have one. People today talk about being busy like it's a badge of honor, like it's proof they're valuable, smart, or successful. Somewhere along the way, I'm busy stopped being a complaint and became a kind of humble brag, a coded way of saying I matter. People used to say they were fine or tired or just getting by. Now it's always, oh, I'm so busy. Busy has become an identity, a social signal, even a kind of religion, complete with rituals, sacrifices, and commandments. You shall schedule every hour. You shall answer every email. You shall worship at the altar of the calendar app. And if you ever dare to rest, may the gods of productivity strike you down with guilt and notifications. We've made busy the moral currency of modern life. If you're not busy, you must be lazy, unmotivated, or failing. The unspoken assumption is that the more frantic your schedule, the more important you must be. That's why people exaggerate how much they're doing. They say things like, it's been crazy lately, even when all they've really done is scroll through social media and microwave leftovers. People inflate their own chaos because it makes them sound significant. There's a weird comfort in believing your exhaustion is proof that your life has meaning. You can see this in how people talk to each other. Ask someone how they've been, and instead of telling you anything real, they'll give you a performance. Oh, I've been slammed. Back-to-back meetings all week. Barely had time to eat. The tone isn't frustrated, it's proud. They're performing struggle as a form of virtue. Being overwhelmed has become the new humble brag. It's like saying, look at me, I'm so in demand that I don't even have time to breathe. Nobody wants to admit that most of their busyness is self-inflicted, that it's not necessity but habit, not purpose but fear, fear of being seen as unimportant or worse, irrelevant. This obsession with being busy is tied deeply to how our culture defines success. For decades, productivity was treated as the ultimate virtue. Do more, earn more, achieve more. Those were the mantras. But somewhere in that process, the doing became more important than the why. We stopped asking whether what we're doing actually matters. Instead, we measure worth by how packed our schedules look. It's a numbers game. How many meetings, how many projects, how many emails? Quantity over quality, motion over meaning. We've built a society where appearing productive matters more than producing anything of real value. And it's not just about work. People compete over how busy they are in every part of life. Parenting, socializing, even relaxing. Parents brag about their kids' overloaded schedules, piano lessons, soccer, coding camp, Mandarin class. Adults treat I'm double booked like it's a flex. Even vacations aren't escapes anymore. They're itinerary Olympics. You see people on holiday rushing from site to site, snapping pictures they'll never look at again, checking off experiences like items on a to-do list. The modern human doesn't rest. They schedule relaxation between bouts of stress. What's funny and sad is that half of this busyness isn't even real work. It's administrative clutter, pointless meetings, and digital noise. We've invented endless ways to look busy without accomplishing anything. Replying to emails, updating spreadsheets, attending video calls that could have been an email. All of it feels like motion, but it's static disguised as productivity. It's like running on a treadmill and bragging about how far you've gone. You're sweating, sure, but you're still in the same place. There's also a social reward for appearing busy. If you say you're free, people assume you're not ambitious. But if you say you're swamped, they assume you're important. So we pretend. We fill the empty spaces in our lives with noise, digital, mental, and emotional, because silence feels suspicious. People can't just sit quietly anymore. They fidget with their phones, refresh apps, check notifications, anything to feel in motion. We've created a culture where stillness looks like failure. You're not supposed to just be, you have to be doing something all the time. Irony is that this constant busyness actually makes people less effective, not more. Studies show that multitasking and constant interruptions destroy focus, creativity, and memory. But people keep doing it because it feels good. Being busy gives the illusion of progress. You might not be getting anywhere, but at least you're moving, and movement feels like meaning. It's comforting to believe that if you're constantly occupied, you're avoiding stagnation or insignificance. But that's the trap. Motion without direction is just chaos with branding. This cult of busyness also feeds anxiety. When everyone around you is bragging about their full calendars and side hustles, you start to feel guilty for resting. People can't even enjoy leisure without turning it into a performance. They read self-help books about mindfulness instead of actually being mindful. They post photos of their digital detox retreats. Even rest becomes something to optimize. We've commercialized calm. There's an entire industry built on helping people recover from the very productivity obsession that industry itself created. Technology has made this worse. Smartphones and apps promise to make us more efficient, but instead they've eliminated the boundaries between work and life. You can now be busy anywhere, anytime. You answer emails in bed, check messages during dinner, scroll through updates while pretending to relax. Being constantly reachable means you're never truly off. The modern worker is like a laptop that's always on sleep mode, never off, never fully alive, just dimly glowing in the background, waiting for the next notification to jolt them awake. What's tragic about this isn't just the exhaustion, it's the emptiness underneath it. People fill their schedule so they don't have to face the silence of their own thoughts. Because when you slow down, you start to ask hard questions. Am I happy? Does any of this matter? Am I doing what I actually want to do? Being busy keeps those questions at bay. It's a distraction disguised as purpose. The busier you are, the less you have to think. That's why some people cling to busyness like a life raft. It saves them from introspection. The truth is, busy has become the socially acceptable form of avoidance. Instead of saying, I'm scared, lonely, or lost, people say, I'm busy. It sounds respectable. You can't be criticized for being busy. It's the one excuse everyone respects. You can avoid friends, family, even yourself. Just wave the magic word busy and you're off the hook. That's why it's so powerful. It hides emptiness behind a mask of importance. So when you really look at it, this whole cult of busyness is a symptom of something deeper. A culture that values appearance over substance, quantity over quality, and noise over thought. People aren't busy because they have to be. They're busy because they're afraid not to be. Afraid of what they'll find if they ever stop. Afraid that stillness might reveal that all their frantic motion doesn't add up to anything meaningful. And that's the real joke of it all. We're working so hard to prove we're alive that we've forgotten to actually live. Technology was supposed to make life easier, faster, and freer. That's what they promised us. Machines would handle the boring stuff, the repetitive stuff, the heavy lifting, and we'd finally have time for the things that matter. But somewhere between the beeping phones, the blinking screens, and the constant updates, technology stopped being a tool and started being a leash. We didn't get freedom, we got dependency. The devices that were designed to serve us now dictate our every move. They tell us when to wake up, when to eat, when to breathe, when to sleep. We've outsourced our memory, our attention, and our peace of mind to machines that are smarter than we are, but not wise enough to care. People can't even go 10 seconds without checking their phones. You see them everywhere, walking into traffic, bumping into poles, scrolling through their digital feeds like hypnotized zombies. The phone has become an extra limb, permanently attached to the hand, glued by invisible fear, the fear of missing something. It's not just addiction anymore, it's instinct. The second there's a moment of silence or boredom, people grab their phones like they're reaching for oxygen. They don't even know what they're looking for. They're just trying to fill the space. Because space in this culture feels wrong. Stillness feels suspicious. If you're not staring at a screen, people wonder what's wrong with you. The worst part is that all these gadgets pretend to be helpful. They dress themselves up as tools for productivity, wellness, and connection, but they're not helping you live. They're helping you perform life. You're not communicating, you're curating. You're not learning, you're scrolling. You're not relaxing, you're consuming. Technology has turned every moment into a transaction, every thought into data, and every feeling into a notification. We've become lab rats, pressing buttons for digital crumbs, likes, shares, hearts, and views. These tiny hits of validation make us feel connected for half a second, then leave us emptier than before. Think about it. Our devices are now telling us how to be human. Your watch tells you to stand up. Your phone tells you to take a deep breath. Your app tells you how to meditate. Machines are teaching us how to live because we've forgotten how to do it ourselves. There's something absurd about a person sitting cross-legged on the floor, phone in hand, waiting for an app to say, "Congratulations, you've completed your mindfulness session." That's not peace, that's performance. It's like needing permission from your phone to exist. The line between real life and digital life has blurred beyond recognition. People can't eat a meal without taking a picture of it first. It's like the food doesn't count unless someone else sees it. You can't just enjoy a sunset. You have to record it, tag it, share it, and check who liked it. Every moment is filtered through the lens of an audience, even when nobody's watching. We've turned ourselves into our own paparazzi, documenting everything and experiencing nothing. The world has become a backdrop for content creation. And we've all become unpaid interns for the internet. And yet, despite all these connections, people are lonelier than ever. You can have 1,000 followers and still feel invisible. Technology promised connection, but it delivered surveillance. It gave us endless communication, but no intimacy. People text more but talk less. They post updates, but hide emotions. They share selfies but not selves. It's easier to send an emoji than to have a real conversation. We've replaced warmth with Wi-Fi. It's faster, sure, but it's not the same. There's no substitute for human presence, for voice, for touch. But try telling that to someone who'd rather message their friend sitting in the same room. Technology has also rewired the human brain. We used to be able to focus on one thing at a time. Now, the average person switches tasks every few seconds. Attention spans have collapsed into confetti. Everything is designed to grab your eyes and never let go. Bright colors, pings, buzzes, pop-ups, autoplay, infinite scroll. The more distracted you are, the more profitable you become. That's the real business model. You are not the customer, you're the product. Your time, your clicks, your attention, that's what's being bought and sold. Every ding is another coin dropped into someone else's pocket. People like to think they're in control of their devices, but it's the other way around. The algorithms know you better than you know yourself. They know what you'll click, what you'll watch, what will make you mad enough to stay online for another hour. They don't care about truth or knowledge or connection, only engagement. Outrage, fear, and envy keep you scrolling, so that's what you get fed. You're not choosing what to consume, you're being trained. Every swipe, every tap, every hesitation teaches the system how to manipulate you a little better next time. And you think you're the smart one because you found a new productivity app. It's ironic. People are busier than ever, yet they're not doing more. They're just being managed by their machines. Notifications interrupt every task, pulling them into endless loops of checking, refreshing, responding. People wake up to alarms, not sunlight. They fall asleep to glowing screens. They check messages in the bathroom, in traffic, during meals, even during conversations. There's no boundary anymore between life and technology. The devices become the day, and when the battery dies, so does your sense of purpose, even for a moment. Technology has also stolen boredom from us, and boredom is important. Boredom used to be where ideas were born, where imagination stretched its legs. When you were bored, your mind wandered, connected dots, daydreamed. Now, the second boredom appears, people crush it with a screen. There's no mental stillness left, no time for reflection or curiosity. The brain never gets to idle, so it never gets to create. We've traded creativity for constant consumption, and we call that progress. What's strange is how willingly people accept this. They talk about their phones like friends, like comfort objects. They sleep next to them, check them first thing in the morning, panic when they can't find them. It's not just habit, it's attachment. The device has become a psychological lifeline. The thought of being disconnected is terrifying, like being dropped into silence with no map. We've come to equate connectivity with safety, attention with love, activity with existence. If nobody's messaging you, do you even exist? That's the kind of question people quietly ask themselves, even if they don't say it out loud. And underneath all this, there's a quiet collective fatigue. People are tired of being plugged in, but they don't know how to stop. They crave simplicity, silence, and focus, but their lives are built on systems designed to deny those things. You can delete an app, but not the anxiety it created. You can turn off your phone, but not the mental restlessness that's been wired into you. The machines are outside us, but their influence is inside. They've become part of the mental landscape, the voice in our heads that buzzes and blinks and says, check me. So technology, in theory, is neutral, a tool like a hammer or a pen, but the way we use it, the way it's designed, has reshaped us into restless, distracted creatures who mistake motion for meaning. We were promised efficiency, but what we got was obsession. The machines didn't enslave us. We volunteered. We signed the terms and conditions. We gave away our time and attention in exchange for convenience, dopamine, and the illusion of control. The tragedy is that it's not the machines that lost their humanity. It's us. Human connection used to be something you could feel. You'd look someone in the eyes, read their expression, hear the tone of their voice, sense what wasn't being said. You could touch, laugh, argue, and forgive in real time. Connection was built through presence, through being there, through showing up. But now, in the age of digital everything, connection has become something else entirely. It's not about presence anymore, it's about access. People don't see each other. They see pixels, posts, and profiles. Technology has given us a million ways to stay in touch, but in doing so, it's made it easier than ever to stay apart. People talk constantly, yet nobody really communicates. They send messages, memes, emojis, fragments of thought instead of full emotions. They like photos instead of saying, I miss you. They post happy birthday on someone's wall instead of calling them. It's efficient, sure, but it's hollow. The gestures are there, but the substance isn't. We've traded depth for convenience, and we call that progress. There's no real effort in typing a few words, no vulnerability in a heart emoji. It's easy to maintain 100 shallow connections while avoiding one real one. The illusion of connection is stronger than the reality of it. People scroll through social media and see everyone else's carefully edited lives, the smiles, the vacations, the perfect dinners, and they feel like they're part of it. But what they're really doing is spectating. They're peering through digital windows, mistaking visibility for closeness. Seeing someone's updates is not the same as knowing them. A feed isn't a friendship, it's a broadcast. The irony is that the more people post to feel connected, the more disconnected they actually become. They're talking to everyone and no one at the same time. What's worse is how people use this false connection as a replacement for emotional intimacy. Real connection requires discomfort, honesty, vulnerability, confrontation, forgiveness. But online, everything can be filtered, controlled, deleted. You can present the best version of yourself, avoid awkwardness, and block anything that challenges you. Relationships become transactions. I'll give you attention if you give me validation. That's not connection. That's marketing. And after enough of that, people start losing the ability to connect in the real world. They don't know how to listen without multitasking, how to talk without checking their phones, how to sit in silence without feeling the urge to refresh something. There's something sad about watching a group of people sitting together at a restaurant, each one looking at their phones instead of each other. The body's there, but the mind's somewhere else. Lost in the feed, floating in the cloud. You could reach out and touch the person next to you, but instead, you're double tapping a photo of someone miles away. People are everywhere and nowhere. The more connected we are digitally, the more fragmented we become socially. And yet, we keep doing it. Because on some level, it's addictive. Digital connection is fast, easy, and predictable. Real people are messy. They take time. They misunderstand you. They expect things. But the screen gives you a sense of control. You can edit your words, mute the noise, exit the conversation with a swipe. You don't have to deal with the complexity of human emotion. You can curate your own comfort zone. But the cost of that control is authenticity. Every filtered face, every perfectly captioned post, every seen message that replaces a real reply, all of it chips away at what it means to truly relate to someone. The language of emotion itself has been cheapened. We've replaced I love you with, I'm proud of you with, and I care with. Emojis and reaction buttons are faster, but they flatten everything into the same level of meaning. A crying face can mean you're laughing or breaking down. Nobody really knows. So instead of real expression, we settle for ambiguity. Communication becomes performance, not connection. People aren't talking to each other anymore. They're broadcasting to maintain their personal brand. There's also a loneliness beneath all this noise. People post and share, not because they want to express, but because they want to be seen. They want proof that they exist in someone else's mind, even for a second. Every notification is a small pulse of reassurance. You matter. But it fades fast. And then they need another one. It's not connection they're chasing. It's relief from isolation. But the more they chase it online, the worse the isolation gets. It's a paradox. The more you reach out through screens, the further away everyone feels. The digital world has also made rejection and avoidance easier. You don't have to confront problems, you can ghost people. You don't have to say goodbye, you can just disappear. Relationships end without closure, friendships fade without warning, and nobody learns how to deal with emotional consequences anymore. Technology has given people an escape hatch from accountability. They can vanish with a tap instead of having a hard conversation. But that convenience comes at the cost of emotional maturity. We're raising generations who know how to communicate instantly but not deeply. It's also reshaped how we view ourselves. People now measure their worth in metrics, likes, followers, engagement. Connection has become quantifiable but not meaningful. Someone with 10,000 followers can feel more alone than someone with 2 real friends. Because validation isn't the same as intimacy. You can be admired by thousands and still not be known by anyone. And yet the numbers matter more. People check them like vital signs, panicking when engagement drops as if it's a personal failure. They don't realize that they're outsourcing their sense of belonging to an algorithm. Even in relationships, technology acts like a third wheel. Couples text more than they talk, argue through screens, resolve nothing, and call it communication. They sleep next to each other while staring into the glow of separate devices. Parents film their children instead of playing with them. Friends record moments instead of living them. Life is filtered through the lens before it's even experienced. And after a while, you start to forget what it felt like to be truly present, to sit with someone without distraction and just exist together in the same moment. It's not that technology is evil. It's that it amplifies the weakest parts of human nature, the desire to avoid pain, to seek validation, to stay comfortable. It gives us shortcuts that look like connection, but skip all the parts that make connection real. It gives us a million small interactions and calls it community. But community requires presence. It requires people showing up for each other, listening, helping, disagreeing, forgiving. None of that fits neatly into a chat bubble. Every generation says something about how society has lost touch, but this time it's literal. We've lost touch. The physical, emotional, and psychological sense of being together. You can't hug through a phone. You can't feel empathy through a text bubble. You can't replace the rhythm of conversation with typing dots. The human nervous system wasn't built for this much disconnection disguised as communication. And that's why people feel anxious, unseen, and emotionally starved, even while constantly surrounded by digital noise. So we keep reaching out, hoping to bridge the gap, but the gap only widens. Because what's missing isn't access, it's authenticity. What's missing isn't communication, it's communion. People are talking more than ever, yet saying less than ever before. They're surrounded by voices, but starving for connection. And until we remember that presence matters more than pixels, that a real conversation means more than 100 notifications, the loneliness will keep echoing louder than the noise. People have always believed that movement equals progress. If you're doing something, anything, it feels like you're accomplishing something. That belief is deeply wired into our culture. But in the modern world, where everything is measured, tracked, and optimized, we've confused constant activity with genuine productivity. People run faster without knowing where they're going, fill their days with tasks that lead nowhere, and mistake exhaustion for achievement. It's not progress anymore, it's performance. Everyone's busy acting productive instead of being effective. You can see it everywhere. Offices full of people sending endless emails, attending meetings about meetings, making slideshows that summarize other slideshows. People spend more time talking about work than actually doing it. They chase deadlines, join calls, tick boxes, and at the end of the day, they're too drained to notice that nothing meaningful got done. But because they were in motion all day, it feels like success. The illusion of effort replaces the satisfaction of purpose. The reason it's so easy to fall into this trap is that modern life rewards visibility over value. It's not about what you create. It's about what can be seen. People are praised for looking busy, not for thinking clearly. A quiet person focused on solving a real problem doesn't get attention. But someone constantly posting updates and staying available looks like a team player. We've built systems where appearances matter more than outcomes, where the show of productivity is more valuable than its substance. Technology amplifies this illusion. Every ping, every notification, every new email feels urgent. People are conditioned to respond immediately, like trained animals waiting for cues. It's constant motion, but not deliberate motion. The modern worker spends their day reacting instead of acting. They confuse responsiveness with effectiveness. Being busy all the time gives a comforting sense of importance, as if each small task is proof that they matter. But all it really does is scatter focus across dozens of meaningless fragments. This addiction to activity extends beyond work. People fill every spare moment with something. Scrolling, clicking, refreshing. Silence makes them uncomfortable. Doing nothing feels like a waste. Even leisure has become an area to optimize. You can't just read a book, you have to post a quote about it. You can't take a walk, you have to track your steps. Everything becomes a task, a metric, a performance. The modern person is always on, even when resting. They no longer know how to simply exist without proving it to someone or something. The culture of constant busyness also hides fear, the fear of insignificance. People worry that if they slow down, they'll fall behind. Someone else will get the promotion, the client, the recognition. There's a quiet panic driving the need to stay in motion. It's as if stillness equals failure, but being constantly occupied doesn't make you successful, it just keeps you distracted. People confuse the hum of activity with the heartbeat of purpose. They're running on autopilot, following routines that look impressive but lead nowhere. One of the cruelest side effects of this obsession is how it devalues rest. Rest isn't seen as part of productivity anymore, it's treated like the opposite of it. People feel guilty for taking breaks, for unplugging, for saying no. They treat exhaustion as a virtue, brag about working late, and treat burnout like a badge of honor. But burnout doesn't mean you worked hard, it means you worked wrong. It means you forgot that productivity isn't about how much energy you burn, but how wisely you use it. Creativity, insight, and problem solving don't come from constant motion. They come from stillness, from letting the mind wander and connect ideas. Some of the greatest thinkers in history spent long hours doing nothing, walking, sitting, staring into space, because that's where deep thought happens. But in today's culture, if you're staring out a window, people assume you're slacking off. The modern workplace has no room for silence, reflection, or contemplation. Every minute must be accounted for, every task measurable. Yet the most important parts of thinking, curiosity, wonder, imagination, can't be measured at all. This confusion between activity and productivity also breeds shallow thinking. When everything moves fast, nobody takes time to go deep. People skim, summarize, and react instead of understanding. The faster they move, the less they think. And because the world keeps rewarding quick responses and constant output, there's no incentive to slow down and think critically. It's like living in a race with no finish line, where the only goal is to keep running faster than yesterday. Social media has turned this mentality into a lifestyle. The pressure to constantly post, update, and stay relevant mirrors the corporate obsession with busyness. Influencers treat their lives like a job, and regular people follow suit, documenting every meal, every outing, every workout. Life becomes a performance of activity. If it's not shared, it's like it never happened. People no longer live for experience, they live for proof of experience. And in chasing that proof, they lose touch with what they were trying to enjoy in the first place. The sad irony is that this constant motion rarely leads to satisfaction. People finish one task only to find 10 more waiting. They chase productivity tools, time management hacks, and grind culture philosophies, all promising the same thing, control. But control is the illusion. No matter how fast they move, there's always more to do. The system feeds on their effort and never gives back enough peace to rest. The more they achieve, the less they feel accomplished. Productivity becomes a treadmill, not a path. And then there's the emotional toll. When people tie their self-worth to output, any moment of rest feels like failure. They start defining themselves by what they do instead of who they are. Their identity becomes their to-do list. When the list is full, they feel valuable. When it's empty, they feel lost. That's why so many people can't unplug, not because they have to work, but because they don't know who they are when they stop. Stillness feels like disappearing. What makes this worse is how society glorifies the hustle. Movies, media, and business culture all celebrate the sleepless worker, the rise and grind mentality, the idea that success comes from constant struggle. The message is clear. If you're not exhausted, you're not trying hard enough. People internalize that message and start measuring their worth by how tired they are. Rest becomes shameful. Busyness becomes moral. But true productivity isn't about endless effort. It's about intentional effort. It's about knowing what matters and having the courage to ignore what doesn't. There's also a spiritual emptiness behind all this busyness. Constant motion leaves no room for reflection, gratitude, or presence. People rush through life chasing goals they didn't choose, driven by pressures they don't question. They achieve milestones but feel nothing when they arrive because they've forgotten why they started running. Life becomes a blur of deadlines and check marks, each one leading to the next, until the only accomplishment left is surviving another day. If you stripped away all the activity, most people would find a quiet truth beneath it, that they've been moving, not to get somewhere, but to avoid standing still. Stillness reveals things they'd rather not face: dissatisfaction, doubt, loneliness, so they keep busy. It's easier to drown in motion than to sit with meaning. But no matter how much they move, the emptiness follows, because motion without purpose is just noise. The difference between activity and productivity is intention. Activity is doing. Productivity is achieving. Activity fills time. Productivity fulfills purpose. The problem is that people don't know the difference anymore. They've been taught that as long as they're busy, they're doing something right. But all the busyness in the world can't replace direction. You can run 1,000 miles and still be lost if you don't know where you're going.